Only when you're alone, she said. Then gave me a sealed box. The Valari ship looked like a dying animal cracked open in space, its innards trailing in delicate filaments across the black, snagged by a magnetic eddy that hadn't existed when they first plotted the route. Commander Ryan Holt hovered above the breach in a rust-scratched dropsuit, helmet visor fogged from his own breath, muttering into his comm, "I don't care what the diplomat said. If this thing twitches, I'm throwing it into the sun." "Copy that, Commander," came Lieutenant Kara's dry voice, thick with static. "But remember, rescue usually means with survivors. Definitions evolve." He adjusted the burn regulators in his boots and slid closer to the ruptured hull, where the Valari alloy was slivered and warped like frozen mercury. Ryan had never liked their ships. Too fluid, too organic, like someone asked a jellyfish to design a cathedral. Human ships had bolts, panels, coffee machines that hissed like broken serpents but still gave you caffeine. These things just pulsed. "Biosign confirmed," said Hal, the mission tech from the shuttle floating a kilometer off. "Mid-deck quadrant, near some kind of energy bloom. She's alive." "Maybe." "Grumpy." "Only one?" Ryan asked. "Only one, not counting what's dripping off the ceiling," he sighed. "Wonderful. All this for a solo evacuation. She better be charming." He maneuvered inside. The gravity was off, which made movement a strange dance between glide and scramble. The interior was bathed in a sickly blue light, the emergency systems trying their best to look dignified while hemorrhaging power. He passed a row of vitrified containment pods, some shattered, others eerily intact. One of them held what looked like a tangle of vines. It waved. "Do not wave back," Ryan muttered to himself. "We're not making friends today." The corridor opened into a larger chamber, something between a medbay and an amphitheater. Floating near the ceiling, tangled in what might have been a restraining net or very angry furniture, was a figure, humanoid, slender, still breathing if the twitching ears were any clue. "I see her," he said. "Vitals look stable," Hal said. "Some kind of implant is regulating pressure. Pretty high-tech." "Of course it is. She probably gets better Wi-Fi in here than we do on the bridge." He kicked gently, crossing the space. The woman turned as he approached, her eyes opening with a slowness that suggested irritation more than injury. Her gaze swept him, armor, weapon, helmet, and then landed on his eyes like she was filing away a complaint. Her ears, long, elegant, ending in delicate curves, tilted back slightly. "Human," she said, voice raspy. "Well spotted. Poor fashion sense. Ridiculous helmet. Smells like steel and regret. Definitely human. Good. You're lucid." He released the clamps on the net. "I'm Commander Holt. We're here to extract survivors." "Lucky you." "Luck is irrelevant. This ship was meant to die." "I wasn't." She dropped into his arms with the theatrical elegance of someone who knew how to fall without appearing to need help. He caught her anyway. Her suit was torn at the shoulder, leaking a faint mist that smelled like mint in ozone. "I can walk," she said, already pushing off. "You sure? Because floating counts as walking in here." "I'll manage." "Great. You're officially my favorite sarcastic bioform of the day." They moved together through the broken corridors, him guiding her, occasionally pointing out areas to avoid with the disinterested tone of someone suggesting better restaurants. She didn't ask questions, didn't panic, just observed quietly like she was already planning the next disaster. "What's your name?" he asked during a lull. "Sarai." "No house name. If you knew it, you'd either bow or arrest me. I'm more of a high-five kind of guy." "Then I'm fortunate." She smirked, just slightly, and Ryan found himself smirking back before he remembered they were still in a ship that could explode. They reached the breach and tethered for extraction. Outside, the stars looked like distant static. The shuttle waited with the kind of eager stillness that meant the pilot wanted to be anywhere else. Ryan tapped his comm, 2 for retrieval. "Copy." "Locking in." As they drifted into the airlock, Sarai tilted her head toward him, Do humans always risk death for people they've never met? Only when we're trying to impress them. She studied him again, and he felt absurdly like a student waiting for a grade. Then consider me unimpressed but grateful. The airlock sealed, pressure normalized with a hiss and a clank. As the shuttle peeled away from the wreck, Sarai reached into a pouch on her belt and pulled out a small object. Smooth, black, no visible seams. She offered it to him. He stared. I didn't get you anything. It's not a gift. Then what is it? A burden. Maybe a joke. You'll find out. You're very comforting. She pressed the box into his palm. Her fingers were cool but steady. Open this when you're alone. Before he could respond, she turned away, stepping lightly toward the medbay where Hal was waiting, datapad in hand and eyebrows already raised. Ryan looked at the box. It didn't hum. Didn't blink, didn't even feel heavy. It just waited. And somehow that was worse. Ryan Holt had survived 3 ship implosions, 1 unlicensed orbital surgery, and a dinner party on Epsilon D4 where the main course had tried to escape. But nothing had haunted him quite like the small, unassuming black box now occupying the second drawer of his quarters aboard Cauldron's Reach. He hadn't even told the drawer what it was holding. Out of respect or fear, possibly both. He'd returned to the station with a commendation and a sore shoulder. The latter courtesy of Sarai using him as a springboard during turbulence. She'd vanished into the diplomatic wing the moment they docked, escorted by a pair of nervous bureaucrats who looked like they were expecting her to explode or recite legislation in pentameter. Ryan hadn't seen her since. That should have been the end of it. Rescue complete. 1 alien saved, box received. Life continued, except that it didn't. Instead, he found himself checking his drawer every night like a man expecting it to hatch something. Wings, teeth, answers. The box remained still, silent, infuriatingly mysterious, just like the woman who gave it to him. He poured himself a mug of synth coffee that tasted like burnt algorithms and stared at the bulkhead until it blurred. Maybe she cursed me, he muttered. Who cursed you? Asked Lieutenant Kara, peering around the open door to his quarters. She was holding a datapad and an expression that suggested she was already regretting walking in. No one. She strolled in uninvited and plopped into the chair opposite his desk, tossing the datapad on top. Mission report for review. And I brought snacks. Snacks you brought you, which is enough. Now tell me why you've been brooding for 3 days like a rejected opera singer. I'm not brooding. You're drinking synth coffee voluntarily. That's brooding or insanity. Ryan sighed. You remember the alien woman we pulled from the Valari wreck? Kara raised an eyebrow. You mean the 6-foot-tall space elf with ears like radar dishes and the emotional range of a quantum singularity? Yeah. Hard to forget. She gave me something. Oh. A kiss. A psychic poem. A deadly fungus. A box. Kara blinked. A box. She told me to open it when I was alone. That's either romantic or ominous. Possibly both. Thank you. That's been very helpful. She leaned forward. Have you opened it? No. Why not? Because I enjoy suspense. Also, I think it's judging me. Okay, now I'm interested. He leaned back in his chair, scrubbing a hand through his hair. She didn't act like it was dangerous, just important. Maybe private. Kara stood up, cracked her neck, and headed for the drawer. What are you doing? Accelerating the plot. Stop. If something happens to you, I'll have to explain to command why my lieutenant opened a possibly alien artifact like it was a cereal box. You're no fun. She stepped back. But seriously, Holt, you can't sit on a mystery forever. That's how horror movies start. This isn't a horror movie. You're drinking bad coffee alone in a dim room monologuing to a box. You're already in Act 2. She left with a grin. Ryan glared at the drawer. It did not respond. He waited until night cycle. He waited until the station lights dimmed and the corridors emptied and the maintenance bots clicked softly along the ceiling like metal spiders. He even turned off his comm link, a small act of rebellion that made him feel like a teenager hiding forbidden tech under his bed. Then, finally, he opened the drawer. The box was just as he remembered, smooth, black, lightless. He lifted it with both hands, as if expecting it to bite. It didn't. His thumb slid across the seam. Nothing happened. Okay, he said to no one. This is the part where it glows or sings or shoots a laser at my eyebrows. It remained perfectly still. He narrowed his eyes and tilted it. Click. A seam split open. Ryan jerked backwards so fast he almost fell off his chair. The top half of the box rose slowly, without hinges, unfolding into a lattice of shifting lines that glowed with soft violet light. In the center hovered a crystal, small, for seat, refracting light in impossible directions. Then it spoke, not out loud, not through sound, but inside his head. Hello, Ryan Holt. He froze. Do not be alarmed. This is not an intrusion. It is a recording, a message, an echo. The crystal pulsed. Not threateningly, just alive. You are holding a piece of me, not a soul, not a mind, a thread. It carries only what I wish to share. If you accept it, it will know you. If not, it will sleep. There was a pause. The voice felt familiar, Sarai's, but filtered, softened, more intimate, like she was sitting just behind his thoughts, speaking from memory. I gave you this because I wasn't sure I'd see you again, because you saved me, and because I do not give such things lightly. Ryan swallowed. This is insane. Possibly, said the voice. But then so is trusting a stranger in a burning ship. He blinked. Wait, are you responding to me? The crystal shimmered. No answer, just silence. He waved a hand over it. Nothing changed. Okay, so it's not fully interactive. That's probably good. I'm not ready to argue with a hologram. The voice returned, softer now. You do not need to decide tonight. You do not need to understand, but you must choose. The light dimmed. The lattice retracted. The crystal folded back into the box, which sealed with a soft sigh like a breath held and released. Ryan stared at it for a long time. Then he set it gently on the shelf beside his bunk. I was wrong, he muttered. This isn't a box. It's a cliff. He lay down, staring at the ceiling, the faint hum of the station filling the quiet. And somewhere, faintly, he imagined a pair of long ears twitching, laughing, waiting. 3 days passed. Ryan still hadn't opened the box again, which technically was a lie. He had opened it, just to see if the crystal would say anything new. It didn't. It just floated there like a smug little ghost of decisions not yet made, humming with quiet knowledge and vague emotional responsibility. He tried poking it. He tried yelling at it. He even tried singing to it after half a bottle of station-brewed Varlian wine. None of these methods proved fruitful, though his rendition of "She Left Me for a Starship" got an accidental round of applause from a passing janitorial drone. He'd almost convinced himself to forget the whole thing when his comlink chimed and the universe, as usual, decided he didn't deserve peace. Commander Holt, came the voice of Dockmaster Vin, a man whose tone always implied he was 2 syllables from yelling. You've got a visitor. I'm off duty. She's wearing a diplomatic passcode. That doesn't mean she also has ears. Ryan froze. Long ones. Longer than yours. He groaned, pulled on his jacket, creased but not embarrassing, and headed toward the docking ring with all the enthusiasm of a man about to be scolded by fate in boots. Sarai was standing in Bay 12, dressed in something halfway between a jumpsuit and a fashion statement. Her expression, as usual, walked the fine line between amused and unimpressed. She looked like she'd just stepped off a political summit and into a bar fight, and wasn't sure which one offended her more. You've been avoiding me, she said without preamble. I've been busy. Liar. Your station reports list 3 card games, a failed protein bake, and 17 minutes of staring at a vending unit. You know, some people would call that a productive day. I call it hesitation. They stood in awkward silence. Ryan tried not to fidget. Sarai just waited, arms folded, one ear twitching in time with the low hum of the station's reactor. I opened the box, he finally said. She raised a brow. And it talked to me. It echoed. Right. Echoed, which is apparently a very normal alien thing. It's rare. Reserved for moments that matter. Ryan scratched the back of his neck. See, that's the part I'm struggling with. What moment is this supposed to be? You handed me a floating enigma like it was a birthday present and vanished into bureaucracy. I needed to see if you'd take it seriously. I took it. That's not serious enough. You held it. Taking it means understanding the cost. That's not ominous at all. She stepped closer. Close enough that the subtle scent of her, mint and ion dust, brushed the edge of his senses. You've heard its voice. That's more than most. It said I had to choose. What exactly am I choosing? Please tell me this doesn't end with me being transformed into a crystalline data sponge. Her mouth twitched, just slightly. That's only happened twice. Very rare. Not comforting. The echo carries a tether. Not physical, not binding, but significant. If accepted, it forms a bridge between minds. A shared link, memory, thought, feeling. Ryan blinked. Are you telling me you gave me a soul Bluetooth? That's not inaccurate. And why would you do that? She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes softened, the ever-present shield of diplomatic indifference cracking just enough to let through something warmer. Sadder. Because I don't trust my own people, and I trusted you. Because I've seen your thoughts, Ryan, even in fragments, and they didn't recoil from mine. He stared at her. You scanned my mind. No. I felt it in the breach. In the silence, there was something shared. Great. So now I'm emotionally entangled with a psychic space noble. What do I even do with that? You let it grow, or you let it go. He opened his mouth to respond and was promptly interrupted by the station alarm blaring like a herd of dying kazoo beasts. Unscheduled approach, said a voice over the comm, vessel inbound. Transponder scramble active. Sarai's expression hardened. That's Valari Tech. Friendly Valari. She glanced at the ceiling as if asking the station gods for patience. We don't do friendly. They rushed to the command deck, Ryan pulling rank as doors opened and officers scrambled to assess the incoming ship. On screen, the vessel twisted into view, sleek, coiled like a serpent, its exterior crawling with runes that flickered like thoughts. No hails, no warning. This is not good, said Hal, who had somehow found his way into the control room carrying a sandwich and an expression of dread. I know those markings. That's a listener class. What's that mean? Asked Kara, newly arrived with her boots half-zipped and her hair looking like she'd just fought a wind tunnel. It means it's not here for diplomacy. The ship didn't fire. It didn't dock. It just hovered. Then it broadcast one thing, an old Valari symbol. Sarai stiffened. That's my family seal. Ryan blinked. Your royalty. I told you knowing my house would complicate things. The screen shifted. A face appeared, Valari, male, cold. Ears even longer than Sarai's, which seemed like overkill. His eyes swept the room until they landed on Sarai. Daughter, he said. Father. Everyone took a step back. Ryan whispered to Hal, I should have stayed in bed. You think you're uncomfortable? I think I just bit into a synth tomato. It tastes like betrayal. The Valari noble continued. Return what is ours. The artifact and the bond. Sarai folded her arms. I gave it freely. That bond is not yours to command. The noble's tone sharpened. You bind your essence to a human, and you expect no consequence. You forget your lineage, your purpose. I remember both. That's why I gave it to someone who won't use it as leverage. The screen cut. The ship remained. Ryan exhaled. Well, that escalated quickly. Sarai turned to him, expression unreadable. This is only the beginning. And here I was hoping for another quiet night with a judgy box. She glanced at him, something like a smile playing at the edge of her mouth. You still have to choose. Can I at least finish dinner first? But he already knew. Choice or not, he'd been pulled into something far larger than one box, one woman, one shared breath in the wreckage of space. The question now wasn't whether he'd accept the bond. The question was whether he'd survive what came with it. Ryan had never imagined his life would involve interstellar politics, ancient alien lineages, or being told by a very dignified, very tall, and very pointy-eared father figure that he was unworthy of a sacred bond because he once lost a sock in a station laundry chute. Granted, the sock incident hadn't come up directly, but Ryan could feel it in the way the elder had looked at him, like he somehow knew. For now, the Listener-class ship hung outside the station like a scowl made of metal. No threats, no weapons fire, no dramatic violin music from the void. Just a silent message: we are watching, and we disapprove. You're remarkably calm for someone being targeted by a spaceship with ancestral grudges, Ryan muttered to Sarai as they strode through a maintenance corridor that smelled faintly of ionized dust and suspicious optimism. I've been disapproved of since before you were born, she replied. Besides, my father's ships rarely shoot. They prefer judgmental hovering. Impressive. My father once threw a wrench at me during dinner. We had very different upbringings. She tilted her head, amused. Were you also the heir to a telepathic dynasty? I was heir to a junkyard and a box of suspicious meat pies. They turned a corner and found Hal standing on a crate, explaining the diplomatic situation to a group of concerned engineers using only interpretive dance and a small flashlight. And if they initiate mental resonance, that's when you run. Not because your mind will be destroyed, but because the last time someone tried it in closed quarters, they started quoting poetry for 3 hours and one of them proposed to a console. Ryan cleared his throat. Hal, the engineers don't need to be traumatized before lunch. They asked me what psychic bonding looked like. We didn't, came a voice from the back. Semantics, Hal muttered, hopping down. So what's the plan? Wait until Daddy Dearest gets bored and floats off to sulk in another quadrant. Possibly, Sarai said. Or he'll wait until the council puts pressure on the station and forces command to hand me over. Why not just hide? I'm 6 feet 4 inches, and my ears make doorways awkward. She's not wrong, Ryan said. Last time we tried to sneak past security, she got caught in the entry scanner and we had to pretend she was a sculpture. It worked, Sarai added. Barely. That guard still sends me weird holiday cards. They returned to his quarters. The box still rested on the shelf like it hadn't just sparked a diplomatic incident. Ryan eyed it. I'm starting to think I should have just opened a souvenir shop and sold this as mystical mind thing, 10 credits or your sanity back. Too late for sanity, Sarai said. She stepped forward, brushing her hand along the surface. The box opened on its own this time, as if recognizing her presence. The crystal rose again, glowing a bit brighter than before. Ryan crossed his arms. Okay, so what does it actually do now? Aside from judge me silently. Sarai looked at him carefully. If you accept it, we'll share a link. A temporary at first. Just a sliver. Enough to feel. Feel what? Truth. Memory. Trust. Annoyance, possibly. You know, when you say it like that, it's very romantic. You're stalling. I'm aware. She reached out her hand. Not to force, just to offer. You don't have to do this. I gave you the box because I trusted you. Not because I expected anything back. Ryan stared at her, then at the crystal, then back at her, then at the crystal again, which was starting to hum like a bored AI waiting for its user to click, accept terms and conditions. He sighed. Fine, but if I end up with glowing eyes or spontaneous sonnets, I'm blaming you. He touched the crystal. There was no flash, no pain. Just a slow, dizzying moment as a veil between minds lifted and he felt something knot his wrapped gently around the edge of his thoughts. Warm, weary, deep, a connection like the echo of shared silence after a storm. Sarai's voice was in his head, not speaking, not intruding, just there, a presence. He looked at her, she looked back, and then the fire alarms went off. Station-wide breach alert, the system barked. Unscheduled boarders in Sector 9. Of course, Ryan muttered. Not even 5 seconds of peace. They ran. Sector 9 was chaos. A trio of armored figures had forced their way through an auxiliary airlock using a molecular destabilizer, which according to the warning sign was not rated for diplomatic visits. The intruders moved with purpose, ignoring crew and surveillance, heading straight for the data vault. Let me guess, Kara said as she joined them mid-run, already drawing her sidam. They are here for the box. Either that, Ryan said, or we're being attacked by militant art collectors. Sarai's eyes narrowed. They are using old Valari stealth signals, house-trained mercenaries. My father's doing. Nothing says love like sending goons after your daughter. They reached the vault just as the lead mercenary placed a charge on the access panel. Sarai didn't hesitate. She launched into a sweeping kick that knocked the device from his hand and sent him flying into a wall with enough force to make the wall rethink its existence. Ryan and Kara covered the flanks, exchanging fire with the other two intruders. Hal showed up with a mop. I told them this hallway needed better defenses, he muttered, swinging the mop with surprising force. One of the mercenaries went down in a tangle of limbs and confusion. Did you just incapacitate someone with a cleaning utensil? Kara shouted. I'm multifaceted. The last attacker made it to the vault door. Sarai raised her hand, and the box responded. Back in Ryan's quarters, it opened again. Unbidden. The crystal flared. A wave of pressure swept through the corridor, not physical but psychic. Like a wall of memory slamming into thought. The mercenary froze, stunned. His weapon clattered to the floor. Ryan felt it too. The faint touch of Sarai's mind guiding his focus, clearing the static of adrenaline from his thoughts. Together they moved. One strike, one step, one breath. It was over. The attackers were restrained. The alarms faded. Ryan sat down heavily on a bench. Sarai knelt beside him. You felt that, she said. Yeah, he replied. I also felt you thinking about how much you wanted to hit that guy in the helmet. She smiled faintly. It was a very punchable helmet. I agree, but next time maybe let me warm up before we go full psychic symphony. She looked at him, eyes softer now. You didn't have to do this. Yeah, well, I've made worse choices. Like that one time I tried to fix a plasma converter with chewing gum. You survived. Barely. I smelled like citrus for a week. The crystal hovered silently now, not demanding, not judging, just waiting for what came next. Ryan awoke the next morning to the disorienting sensation of someone else's thoughts bumping gently against his own. Not words exactly, more like emotions wrapped in half-formed images. A pulse of amusement, a flicker of curiosity, the vague impression of him snoring and something about nasal turbulence. He groaned and rolled over. You're in my head again, he muttered. You left the link open. Sarai's mental voice was clearer now, less ghostly than before. Still dry, still smug. I wasn't aware you produce such impressive vibrations in your sleep. I'm not singing. I have a deviated septum, he said aloud, sitting up. And while we're on the subject of boundaries, maybe don't evaluate my dreams without a warrant. You were dreaming about that time you fell into the cafeteria gravy vat. Ryan buried his face in his hands. You're supposed to be an alien emissary, not a living commentary track. I contain multitudes. They met in the Central Gardens. Really just a glorified oxygen farm with fake sunlight and a few stubborn bushes genetically modified to look prettier than they smelled. Sarai was already there, standing near a fountain that burbled like it had opinions about everything. "You're adapting quickly," she said. "To the bond or to being hunted by your psychic aristocracy?" "Yes." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Any chance your dad sent that kill team as a friendly reminder? Like, happy bonding anniversary, here's a squad of helmeted assassins." He doesn't believe in subtlety. He believes in legacy and ownership. "Well, good news. I'm notoriously bad at being owned. Tell that to the vending machine you're emotionally attached to. That machine saved my life once. Probably by accident." They sat on the edge of the fountain. The box was with them. Sarai insisted on carrying it now, saying something vague about its presence resonating more efficiently in close proximity. Ryan suspected that was code for, "I don't trust anyone else with it, including you. But I'm being polite." "Have you thought about what the bond means yet?" she asked after a pause. "I've had other things on my mind," he said. "Like how we're one bureaucratic complaint away from being evicted by the Galactic Accord. Or how my favorite lunch spot got turned into a noodle fusion lab by a sentient fungus collective." You deflect with humor. I deflect with noodles too, when I can find them. Sarai didn't push. Instead, she handed him a small data chip. "What's this?" "A message from someone who chose the bond before." He hesitated, then slotted it into his wrist console. A holographic projection flickered to life, an older Valari, her ears adorned with ceremonial rings, her expression thoughtful and weather-worn. "If you're seeing this," the recording said, "then you've been offered what few outside our kind ever are. The tether. It is not love. It is not ownership. It is something stranger and stronger. A binding of presence, a partnership beyond thought." The hologram glanced slightly aside, as if addressing someone unseen. "When I chose, I thought it was a way to learn more. Instead, I became more. We shared dreams. We shared fears. We even shared our hatred of ceremonial tea rituals. I don't regret it, even after everything." The recording ended. Ryan was quiet for a while. "So what happened to her?" "She died," Sarai said softly. "Old age, peacefully. Her partner passed 2 years later. Because of the bond?" "No. Because of love." "That's not terrifying at all." They were interrupted by Hal, who appeared from behind a bush carrying what looked suspiciously like a bucket of luminescent eels. "Don't ask," Hal said preemptively. "I wasn't going to," Ryan replied. "But now I'm concerned. They are for an experiment. Possibly culinary. Definitely fatal." Hal nodded at the box. "So how's the glowing relic of soul entanglement doing today?" "It's judging me slightly less than usual," Ryan said. "I think it likes you," Sarai added. "Fantastic. All I ever wanted was the approval of an ancient psychic crystal." Before anyone could add another sarcastic comment, the comm unit on Ryan's wrist chirped. "Commander Holt, report to Ops. You've got an incoming diplomatic channel." He stood with a groan. "Let me guess, your dad again. Maybe this time he'll send us a fruit basket." "I wouldn't eat it," Sarai said. "Unless you enjoy hallucinating your regrets." Ops was buzzing with quiet tension when they arrived. The comms officer gave Ryan a grim nod and transferred the signal to the main display. It wasn't Sarai's father. It was someone worse. A Valari counselor, all robes and condescension. Her name floated beneath the image in flowing script, Counselor Yira of the Binding Tribunal. "You have interfered with sacred protocol," Yira said without greeting. "The artifact must be returned. The bond annulled. You have 72 hours to comply, or the Accord will no longer protect you." Sarai stepped forward, chin high. "The bond is consensual, recognized. You have no authority to revoke it. You are a dissenter. You cast aside your duty. You bonded with a human, a fractureborn." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Fractureborn? Is that a compliment or?" "It means you were born in a region of space they consider unstable," Sarai explained, her voice tight. Oh, so basically I'm space trailer trash. Yura continued, unamused. Sever the link, or face exile. Both of you. The transmission cut without waiting for a reply. Silence settled like dust. Exile, Ryan said finally. You know, I always wanted to see new places. Preferably not under threat of psychic eviction. It means we'll be hunted, Sarai said. We'll lose access to protected sectors, trade, safe passage, sanctuary. Well, he said, we've got each other, and Hal, and the mildly threatening eels. Sarai's eyes met his. No laughter this time, just quiet certainty. If we run, there's no going back. Ryan looked down at the box, now glowing with soft steadiness. Then at her, then at the stars. I think we've already left, he said. And the box pulsed once, as if in agreement. The stolen ship was technically a diplomatic courier, which meant it wasn't built for stealth, firepower, or dignity. It looked like a metallic cucumber with thrusters, and its automated voice assistant, named Callie, sounded permanently unimpressed with all life decisions made aboard her. Course set for uncharted system Zater V19, Callie droned. Estimated arrival: 12 hours. Also, someone left half a sandwich in the environmental processing unit. I am not cleaning that up. That's my lunch, Ryan said, strapping into the cockpit seat. And technically it's a nutrient loaf. It's growing mold with ambition. He sighed and checked the navigational readings. Behind them, the last signals from the Accord-controlled zone flickered out like dying embers. Ahead, uncharted space. The dark water between the stars, barely mapped, less governed, and frequently dangerous. We're really doing this, he said. Running from a galactic tribunal with only one crate of emergency noodles and a lifelink that lets us eavesdrop on each other's worst thoughts. Sarai looked up from where she was calibrating the box, now anchored in a containment cradle modified from an old engine part. You're handling it with more grace than I expected. I internalize panic mostly into sarcasm and snacks. The bond between them had deepened during the escape. Ryan felt her thoughts now like distant radio waves, there when he focused, hidden when he didn't. Sometimes in moments of stillness, he'd catch flickers of her memories, vast halls carved from crystal, a childhood spent balancing between ceremony and rebellion, a private joy in obscure star maps that reminded him oddly of his own collection of antique station blueprints. He didn't mention that he'd seen her singing once, alone, somewhere inside her mind. The melody had no words, just a shape of longing. We'll need supplies soon, she said. There's a trade hub near Vanti's Drift. Unofficial, illegal in several systems, but they don't ask questions. Perfect, he said. I've always wanted to be an intergalactic fugitive with a taste for black market uranium. They dropped out of hypershift near the drift. The trade hub hung like a mechanical barnacle on the side of an asteroid, all patched hulls and flickering lights. A welcome sign blinked in 12 languages, 3 of which were legally extinct. Inside, the air smelled like ozone, fried proteins, and ambition. Vendors hawked everything from grave boots to artificial emotions. A four-eyed trader offered to enhance Ryan's charisma for a fee. He declined. Barely. While Sarai handled the crystal's shielding components, Ryan picked up essentials: fuel cells, water recyclers, questionable jerky sticks, and a mood plant that glowed green when happy and red when exposed to lies. Hal arrived by smuggler shuttle, wearing a pair of borrowed pants that were 2 sizes too short and carrying a suitcase full of stolen towels. I liberated these from a resort moon, Hal said proudly. They are ultra-absorbent and probably cursed. How did you even find us? Ryan asked. Tracked your emotional signature through the bond, Hal replied. Also, I bribed a customs officer with a bootleg soap opera. Sarai raised an eyebrow. You know how to track resonance. Please. I once dated a telepathic fungus. I know how to read auras and escape out the bathroom window. They returned to the ship just as a coded warning flashed across the console. Someone had traced them again. The coordinates pointed to a Valari patrol ship, fast and sleek and too far away to engage. For now. They are not giving up, Ryan said. They never do, Sarai answered. The bond is a symbol to them. We've polluted it. Symbol of what though? Power? Heritage? Or just old-fashioned ego? All of it. He looked at the box. It hummed quietly in the background. No longer dormant, almost alert. Have you ever heard of the singularity record? Sarai asked suddenly. Is that the one that makes your nose bleed when you listen backwards? No. It's a relic older than my people. Older than most. Said to be a map not to a place but a truth. One that can only be accessed through a completed bond. Completed as in fully merged. No secrets, no separation, total unity. Ryan made a face. That sounds like either enlightenment or a really intense breakup. Maybe both. She walked to the box and touched its surface. The crystal extended upward, casting a new projection, star coordinates, unfamiliar and shifting. It's showing us something, she murmured. Could be a trap. Could be everything. Ryan crossed his arms. Let's say we do this. Follow the glowing space rock's coordinates, discover the ancient secret of the cosmos, maybe merge our brains in a psychic blender. What if we don't like what we find? She smiled faintly. Then we'll lie about it, say it was profound and mysterious and everyone else just doesn't understand. He laughed. That's basically my approach to cooking. Hal peeked in, holding a mug of something green and steaming. Just FYI, I might have bartered part of our fuel reserves for this beverage. I was told it promotes cellular jazz. Hal, Ryan said. What does that even mean? No one knows. That's the jazz part. Callie's voice crackled over the speaker. Incoming transmission. Scrambled. Origin unknown. Ryan flicked a switch and the screen lit up with a mess of static that slowly resolved into a hooded figure. No name, no face, just a voice like rusted metal on silk. You hold the key, the figure said. The coordinates point to the axis of memory, but beware, others seek it, and some have already begun the breach. What breach? Sarai asked, but the figure vanished. Cryptic much. Hal said. Also, should we be worried about axes and memories and potential universe unravelings? Yes, Sarai and Ryan said together. The box pulsed once more, brighter than before. A soft melodic tone filled the ship. We're being summoned, Sarai said. To a mystery wrapped in riddles, chased by zealots, armed with sarcasm, Ryan added. She turned to him. Are you ready? He hesitated, then nodded. No. But let's go anyway. And the ship leapt toward the stars, the box glowing in their wake, leading them deeper into the unknown. The final coordinates led them to a starless fold in space, a pocket of black so complete it swallowed light and logic. No charts recorded it, no signals pierced it. Callie declared it an existentially discouraging destination and tried to initiate a systems nap. They went in anyway. The ship passed through the dark like breath through silk, and when they emerged, reality had reorganized itself into something strange and still. A sphere floated before them, massive, crystalline, rotating with impossible geometry. Its surface was threaded with runes too old for language and too precise for randomness. Around it, fragments of ships drifted in slow orbit. Ancient hulls from every era and species, even some Ryan had only seen in xenolinguistic conspiracy forums. Is that the axis? He asked, watching the reflection swirl across the viewport like ghost fish under glass. Sarai nodded slowly. The singularity record. The place where memory collapses into truth. I was kind of hoping it would be smaller. Maybe come with a tour guide. It might, she said, stepping toward the projection node. The box had already begun glowing, soft, golden, steady. Hal appeared behind them with his 7th cup of cell jazz tea. So do we knock? Offer a ritual? Or just throw the box at it and hope for the best? Ryan raised an eyebrow. Did you bring anything useful? A fusion cutter. Emergency ejection plan. I brought towels, Hal said. And an upbeat attitude. Sarai stepped forward, holding the box in both hands. It opened for the first time not with a sound but with a sensation like gravity shifting in reverse. Light poured upward, carving symbols mid-air. The bond between them flared to life, electric and open. And for the first time, Ryan saw Sarai's entire memory. Not glimpses, not fragments, everything. He saw her as a child in Valari starlight, alone in a crowd of ceremony. Her first rebellion, mild and clever, swapping incense with glitter powder. Her mother's laughter, soft and rare. The day she chose exile, the night she touched the crystal and dreamed of a bond with someone not chosen for her but found in defiance of tradition. She saw him too. Not just the bravado, the jokes, the disasters he wore like armor, but the core, the loneliness he never named, the ache he called curiosity, his obsession with fixing broken things, his stubborn hope which survived more wreckage than any ship he ever flew. The light coiled around them, then surged toward the axis. A door appeared. Well, Ryan said, either that's an invitation or a cosmic prank. I vote both, Hal said, sipping his tea. They stepped through. Inside was not space. It was not time. It was memory, layered and vast. The axis spoke without words, feeding images into their minds. A Valari who refused the bond and withered into silence. A human who accepted it and changed, becoming something more. A war prevented by a moment of shared thought. A disaster caused by its absence. The axis wasn't just a record. It was a choice engine. A vault of potential futures encoded in collective memory. Each bonded pair who reached it added their imprint, their echo. Each choice nudged the shape of what came next. You are not here to claim power, the axis said, its voice like glass breaking underwater. You are here to offer resonance. Sarai stepped forward. We came to protect the bond from those who would use it, weaponize it. You came, the axis corrected, to understand why it was made. The final vision came slowly. A civilization long lost, neither human nor Valari, fragmented across galaxies. They had no speech, only connection. Their memory was the axis. Their love was its fuel. They created the bond not as a tool but as a bridge. The axis shimmered. You may return or remain. Share what you are or become what we were. Ryan turned to Sarai. I like being me, he said. Mostly. Especially now that someone tolerates my snoring. I don't tolerate it, she said. I weaponize it against intruders. He grinned. Then I guess we go back and keep the bond alive, share it and maybe fix a few mistakes along the way. She nodded. They stepped back through the threshold. The axis faded behind them. They returned to the ship. Callie rebooted with a disgusted sigh. Hal declared the experience profound and confusing, like a good cheese. In the days that followed, they became something else. Not fugitives, not diplomats, something stranger. Messengers. They traveled world to world, sharing fragments of what they'd seen, helping others form their own bonds. Not just Valari to human, but minds of all kinds. They taught the meaning of resonance, not unity without difference, but understanding with space between. They built a network of bridges instead of walls. Sarai's father eventually sent a message. It contained no threats, just a single line, "You've made history. Be careful what follows." Ryan replied with a picture of Hal asleep on a pile of ceremonial towels. Years passed. The bond remained. Sometimes late at night, they'd sit on the hull of a docked ship, watching stars move like old songs. Sarai would hum something quiet, and Ryan would pretend not to be moved. He had changed. He no longer needed to be alone to open the box, because now it was never closed.